Hey, everybody. It's me, Aaron Lopresti. Last time I checked. Welcome to Comic Art Convo. This is the show that we do once a month at the last Saturday of every month. And that's what today is. It's the 25th of February, 2023. Please don't criticize my clothes. They don't match. I've been working in the studio. We're changing everything up, getting everything back back in order after we've changed the position of everything. And so I'm right kind of at that midway point where everything's a wreck. So anyway, forgive me for my disheveled, non-matching appearance. But let me bring in my co-host here, James Feely, the guy we know as Sequential Treasures. There he is. Hey, James, welcome.
Welcome to the frozen tundra, everybody.
Yeah, exactly. Well, so they're telling me we had a record snowfall for this area, or the biggest since 1949 or something like that. But some places got 10 inches of snow, which is unheard of in this area. We got about 4 to 6, which we can get every about 3 to 5 years. We get a snowstorm, but apparently in Portland, it was pretty bad, but thankfully I don't live in Portland. So
you should have kept your other handle you've been using, Old Man Winter. You see, you took it off and then see look what happens.
Exactly. Well, I've got I've got a man called Lopez. I've got Aaron Lopresti. I've got Old Man Winter. I've got so many to choose from. I made a panic move.
You should be celebrating today where you are.
Because it's melting?
This is a special anniversary for you.
Is it?
In 1919, your state was the very first state in the union to have a gasoline tax. So you've been getting screwed over on the gas longer than anyone else in the country.
Wow. Wow. Isn't that amazing?
And since
Only in Oregon, right?
Month, I've changed up all my stuff here, you can see, and one of the ones up there, Avengers 315 by your friend the late Paul Ryan, with the Nebula booty right there, the Nebula booty shot for your love. There it is, right there.
That is like,
if you turn it upside down, it looks like a heart.
That's kind of like that movie poster. Which one was it? The James Bond movie poster, A View to a Kill or something? Where no, that had the chick's legs and then
Yep.
Good time. Good old Paul. I miss Paul. He's a good guy. Let's take a look at the chat here before we start rolling on this episode. We're going to be talking about our favorite mini series or limited series, but we'll get to that in just a second. We have Sequential Treasures is here. Why, that's you, James. You're the first one in the door. Marcus Killigrew is here.
Second. Huh? The first one in the door I saw them was Leg Kick, because as you know, Leg Kick is almost always
here. So, well, good. Let's see. H is for Heretic says, you're in a position to demand nothing. I, on the other hand, am in a position to grant nothing. Of course, he's quoting Star Trek 2. That would be the Wrath of Khan. Unhinged is here. One Slick Dude, Zombie Bay, Gray Wolf Graphics. Paul Taylor, our resident biologist, is joining us. Squeaky. Aaron, you forgot about me. I didn't forget about you. There you are right there. See? What, me? I didn't forget about you. Oh, she's probably talking about her. She entered the Wraith of God Blood Hunters art contest, but Squeaky, I did post. I gave you a single post all by yourself on Twitter that said, I forgot this one, but then I remembered. So you got like isolated by yourself, the spotlight right on you. So I forgot, but then I did remember. Marcus Killigrew's here. Henry Jeremick, Creative Fay Illustration. Of course, Tarks9 all the way from Canada. Agent Zero. Of course, I did the Chrome Dog cover for his campaign Chrome Dog, which you'll find on Indiegogo. So you want to check that out. Paul Taylor cracking really bad biologist jokes. Orange, you glad to see me? Good old fruit jokes. I remember those when I was a kid. You say, what did you go? Banana. You say banana, then say orange, and then you say orange. You go orange. You glad to see me, or something like that. But anyway, it wasn't any better now than it was then.
No, it's knock knock. It's knock knock. Who's there? Banana. Banana who? Knock knock. Who's there? Banana. Banana who? Knock knock. Who's there? Banana. Banana who? Knock knock. Who's there? Orange. 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 Glad I didn't say banana anymore.
That's what it is. Paul Taylor saying, yeah, we got creamed here too, and then the temperature plummeted. It was pretty mild wintered before that. Yeah, it's amazing. Here we are, like the tail end of winter, and we get hit with this massive storm. So Paul Taylor, of course, bragging that they've had gas tax for years. So, Henry Jeremick, this is an interesting subject. I had to think about this one. So did I. We'll get to that in just one second. Kevin Thomas is here. Hyper Wizard. Let's see. Bearwolf 13. Siege Perilous is here. Chris Hernandez is here. And of course, Repaller Man, Jack, MB Bonner, Ahoy Aaron. Well, you can say ahoy to James as well. Don't be shy. Agent Zero says taxation should not be a brag. Boy, isn't that the truth?
It wasn't a brag. It's just an anniversary. 124 years of getting screwed. That's all.
Yeah, it just gets worse and worse every year. Leonard Cohen said there's no good rhyme for orange except door hinge, and nobody likes that. Boy, isn't that the truth? All righty. Oh, wait a minute. Dr. Mask's Retro Elixir says sunny and 80 here in upstate New York. Now, just kidding. Snowing in 28. Okay, you had me there for a second. All right, James, I don't know how hard this topic was for you, but I couldn't think of any. And then when I started looking,
difficult. In fact, folks,
there was tons.
Yes, folks, it was so hard for me. In fact, I couldn't even narrow it down to 6. I had to do 8. That's as low as I could get it, because it's just so. This is going to be, it may be the shortest month of the year, but this is going to be the longest show of the year because it's going to be jam packed with stuff, folks. We just could not condense it all down.
Well, my interior designer is showing up here at 5:30, so let's get this show cracking.
Yeah,
we're starting with number 1, right?
Of course,
sounds like
as
a
always.
good place to start. All right, now I was going to pick this one, but you stole it from me. But this is the only one you took that I would have picked, so I give it to you gladly, happily. I share it with you. Well, there we go.
If you're going to start at the beginning, and of course, it all begins with this guy. So that's everything we love about this hobby is right there with him. So why not start with him? This is Man of Steel 6 by John Byrne and Dick Giordano. I love this rebooting of the origin. It makes it simplified. He's super powerful, but not so powerful you can like juggle planets and all the stuff that he was doing like in the Silver Age. There wasn't any of that stuff, and I just love how they did this. It's not like a big slugfest stuff. It's not like lots of him going there and beating up a bunch of people. It's all human drama. It's all human interaction, and it's just a lot of great character moments. You really get to know about not just the character of Superman, Clark Kent, but of everyone in his world. Lois Lane, Lex Luthor, his parents, Lana Lang, all of them. And I think this is a brilliant way of sort of reintroducing everyone to the character as they did in the late 80s when they revamped and rebooted everything, and keeping it simple and very, very taut in the way they told the story. And I just love this miniseries for that. To me, it's like this is a textbook example of how to do an origin for a character is this series.
I agree. I was super excited when this came out. And they even had radio spots advertising this comic. It was pretty amazing. It was a big, big deal. And I remember actually, and this, was this 86, 85? When was this?
86.
86. So I was 22 and I still got excited about this. I was like, even as a young adult, I was like, I can't wait for this. And so, yeah, it was one of my faves too. Let's take a look at an interior page here that, they made StreamYard even more complicated to like share stuff. Like it wasn't bad enough before. There we go. So talk about this page a little bit.
This is exactly what I was talking about, the fun aspects. He stops a mugger, and then he gives her stuff back. He hears on the radio there's more trouble, so I was like, oh, gotta go. But hey, let me make sure try to turn down your noise there, because gotta be conscientious to other people. And it's like, see ya, and he just like slowly flies off. You don't see this in the character anymore. They don't show this fun side of Superman anymore. And but that's what I loved about this is he enjoys what he's doing. It's not like he's just doing it because he has to, or he's doing it because it's a mission that has to be completed like Batman or something. He's having fun with this stuff, and that's what I love about this miniseries. They showed a fun side to Superman that you don't really see anymore.
Yeah, it was classic Superman, but done with kind of a modern take, and because obviously Byrne was very big at this time. And I love that last panel, the graphic design of that last panel with the white background, and he's just flying straight up. I again, like you, I just absolutely loved this miniseries, and it was
just
refreshing.
the expression of the woman, the expression in the first panel, the expression in the fifth panel, and the expression in the last panel. I mean, it's just perfect.
Yeah, he really, I mean, he spent such a good amount of time at Marvel and did quite a bit of stuff, obviously, at Marvel. This was kind of a shock to the system to see him over at DC, but it was what DC needed, and maybe what Byrne needed a little bit too, to kind of rejuvenate himself. Because I just thought this was top-notch work by him. But let's see. Someone was
Dr.
saying
Mask, fun in comics, crazy talk. Yes, it does seem that way now, but back then it was not so crazy.
I know, it was actually who could do better comics instead of a race to see who could do the worst comics. It's very different. Someone said they were a little ticked off at Byrne for leaving Marvel. Was that Agent Zero? Was that you? I believe so. So I don't know. I mean, I was never a DC guy, but this opened my eyes. And it's the first time I actually really read Superman was when Byrne did it. So it did, it did work. It drugged me in. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not a Superman guy normally, but I had a change of a heart and opinion about this character after this miniseries by Byrne. So, all right. So let's take a look at your second choice. Oh, that's interesting. I've been doing about 20 things today. So it was like setting up for the show. I did everything super fast. And I was like, I didn't even really pay attention to everything that you picked here. But Foolkiller.
We just got them to talk about fun comics. This is the absolute opposite end of fun. The Foolkiller. I love this series. It's by J.J. Birch and you worked with the late, great Steve Gerber.
You just broke up there.
And
Steve Gerber. Well, if Steve Gerber wrote it,
Steve
it's
Gerber.
Weird. Yeah.
Well, it's not so much weird as it is almost omniscient and prescient. Because it's just if you read this series, because again, all the stuff you're going to see here, folks, I read through all of this over the past month, and a lot of others too that I couldn't get in, but I read through all of these in the last month. The stuff that's in there, if you look at it, this is from 1990. You read it and you're like, is he talking about 1990 or is he talking about 2023? Because it's so prescient to today. It so is. I can't explain how he was able to tap into like just the psyche of the human condition. And this whole story is about a guy who in the wake of the death of his father, basically his life falls apart. He loses his job, his wife leaves him, he ends up working at a burger joint, after he was working in savings and loan industry and all this stuff. His life has gone to crap, and he's watching TV one night, and the previous Foolkiller comes on and starts talking, and things he says make sense. And so he starts conversing with him, first by mail, then by computer. And the second Foolkiller gets this guy to become the new Foolkiller. And then he takes up the mission of killing fools. And as he goes through all this, it's almost like a breaking down of a character and then rebuilding them up as something else. And it's just brilliantly done. I love this book, and it's just he builds this character so well, this new Foolkiller. And he starts out just killing your street level guys, like your drug dealers and your prostitutes and stuff like that, the dregs of society that no one would miss. And he becomes almost like a folk hero in a way. But then he starts to realize, and he's looking more and more in this, he's like, wait a minute, the fools aren't just those are the obvious fools. There are bigger fools, more important fools that aren't being touched. And then once he starts going after them, that's when things start changing. And that's when they start coming down on him, because now the people in power are like, hey, whoa, when you want to kill the street scum, that's okay. When you come after us, we got to put you down. And it's just an excellent tour de force of political, socio-political type, thoughts of the day. And if you read it, and then you think of today, you're like, my God, it's more true now than it was in 1990.
I was going to say, you'd need right now, today, you'd need a team of Foolkillers, because there's just too many for one guy to handle.
Yes.
Dan Lawless is joining us, and he said, I like the Foolkiller story in Spider-Man drawn by J. Romita Jr. Is this one better? What do you think, James?
Well, the one in the Spider-Man issue is the one this guy talks to. He's the Foolkiller who's been locked up, and he talks with him through the computer and stuff. This guy becomes a new Foolkiller, and again, I like this guy. It's a great story.
Well, Dr. Master Retro Elixir agrees with you. This is a great series. He said, well, I didn't realize, I never read this when it came out. I remember when it came out and I saw it, but Gerber, I don't even, he's not getting, they didn't get credit on the front cover. That's very weird. But maybe they weren't doing that quite yet. This was probably
Marvel
late 80s,
wasn't doing
early
that
90s?
yet. DC was doing it, but Marvel wasn't.
Okay. Yeah, if I'd known this is Gerber, I might have picked it up. Well, let's take a look at one of the interior pages here that you brought with us. Now, this is interesting. Again, pushing all the buttons for a simple share. There it is. What can you tell us about this?
Okay, now I'm going to try and read this because, it really exemplifies exactly what this series is about.
All right.
He goes, there is no longer any significant difference between the gutter and the boardroom. The quick buck and the quick high are two sides of the same coin. I see now that I've only been hunting the most obvious fools. There are also political pushers, savings and loan rapists, corporate murderers, power junkies, and media slugs. They've all been allowed to set the agenda, and they all share a common trait: a disdain for the common good that obviates civility and restraint, making principle and conscience seem like quaint anachronisms, and eliminating the hazards of thinking and the need for effort. Don't worry, be happy. Nothing to shout about except the need of the moment. Nothing to worry about except for the need of the moment. They have no use for history and the belief in the future. Aren't you better off now than you were 4 years ago? Our lives and hopes have been reduced to that. Effort and the good life don't mix. That is the essence of the new age of barbarism. No effort, no thought, no principles, no conscience, no restraint, no civility, no belief in the common good, no consequences. Until now. And it's like, what is he talking about then, or is he talking about today?
I know. Well, some things never change, apparently, right?
Evidently. But again, and that's probably why this series works so well.
Foolkiller was better than Taxi Driver and Watchmen, says Kevin.
I don't know about Taxi Driver. I haven't seen that movie in quite a while. I'd have to watch it again to be sure. But I definitely agree about this is definitely better than Watchmen. Yes.
Captain Canada says Punisher and Foolkiller should have teamed up back then. That's interesting.
Yeah,
Punisher would have killed him.
Yeah, he would have killed the Foolkiller. Yeah.
Back then, now he wouldn't. He would probably lecture him and then let him go. But well, we've got people chiming in with their choices. Wolverine by Claremont and Miller was fantastic. Yeah, it was. But we're not sitting here voting on what we think is the best. We're saying which is our favorite, right? I mean, isn't that really what we're doing here?
These are our favorite picks, like, stuff we enjoy. It's not necessarily like the greatest of all times.
I actually looked up a list of the 10 best. Of course, that's subjective, but the 10 best miniseries of all time, and I thought it was pretty interesting. It reminded me of, I was just trying to get myself to remember some of the stuff that I'd read. And but anyway, here we go. Wild Dog from DC. How about that?
Funny enough that they brought up Punisher, because a lot of people have said that Wild Dog is basically a knockoff of the Punisher, which to a degree is true, because this is 1987, the Wild Dog miniseries by Max Collins and Terry Beatty. And it sort of was a take on the Punisher, but they had a few differences in here. First is, you don't know who he is. He wears a mask, as you can see, but even in this story, you don't know who he is until the end of the miniseries. So the whole mystery of who is Wild Dog added a whole layer you never had with the Punisher. On top of that, he's a lot more verbose than the Punisher is. The Punisher, he's like a man of few words. And like when you read those captions, the great Mike Barron stuff, at the time, all very utilitarian minded and how he's thinking. This guy, he'll talk some trash as he's killing you. And I just like that about it. That gallows humor is just a nice little touch. And his motivations are slightly different than the Punisher's. But I
always.
love this. It's vigilanteism 101, and it's just a great action miniseries. I wish they would have done more with the character, but unfortunately that didn't happen. But this is a great miniseries.
I always looked at this, and it wasn't. And I hate to sound nerdy, but it didn't look superhero-y enough. It looked like some guy threw some clothes on that he had in his garage and a hockey mask or something, and went out killing people. And I was like, I need something with a little bit more superhero slant to it. But so I actually never read this one either. Snake Oilers pointing out that Camelot 3000 was a great miniseries, and it was. It didn't make, I don't think, either of our lists, but is fantastic. And maybe if I wouldn't change my picks, but that would certainly be close to the top. That was really good by Mike Barr and Brian Boland.
Well,
So,
and how can you go wrong with Boland artwork? I mean, really,
I know.
How you can't call that a wrong step.
Yeah, Bruce Patterson did a job of inking him, which would be no easy task, inking Boland, I wouldn't think. Let's take a look at an interior page from this issue. That's pretty good. All righty. Hey, Wild Dog, what's up? Show me how to shoot this bazooka.
Here it is right here. The gallows humor I was telling you about. She tells him about them about to shoot off of this futuristic looking like bazooka gun, and you see like I love the silence before a salvo. Me too. And then he shows up. I love the silence after a salvo. That's hilarious.
Did he just kill those two? Did he just kill those two?
Yes, he did. He killed the terrorists. He just blew them away and then made a wisecrack at the end. That's awesome. You'd never see Frank Castle do that.
I didn't realize they were terrorists. I was like, oh yeah, check this out. Like, oh my gosh, I just killed my neighbors. But no, they're terrorists. Okay, they got what they deserve.
Well, they're terrorists, but they're on this island that's got like a museum on it, so they're dressed as like tourists, so you don't know what they're doing. They're not going to say, "Hey, look, we're terrorists, everybody!" So they're dressed in incognito. But yes, they're terrorists.
Okay, well, I feel a little bit better. Scott Dunbeer is in the house. Hey, Scott. Terry was better on. I assume he's assuming Terry Austin over. Were we talking about Camelot 3000? Did Terry Austin ink some of that? Boy, I haven't looked at it in so long. I assume that's what you're talking about, but unless you guys were talking about something else.
About Terry Beatty. I mean, Terry Beatty's the one who drew this, and he had ink by Dick Giordano. So
well, Scott, you've it says there's Giordano again. Shadowcat and Wolverine art was he may be talking about the Art Adams miniseries Longshot too.
Okay. Well, Marcus Killaroo gets it right here. This one was by the Ms. Tree team. Yes, the same people who created Ms. Tree, they created Wild Dog.
Wow. Yeah, we're talking about one thing. They got a whole nother thing going on in the chat. Camelot 3000 was terrific. Terry Austin took over inking on 7. Thank you, Dr. Masks Retro Elixir. So he was talking about Camelot 3000. I'd have to go back and look at it. I haven't looked at that series in so long, but anyway, okay, so moving right along. Oh, this miniseries had fantastic cover art, and we're about to show you why. There you go. Chuck Dixon, Tom Lyle, Bob Smith, and of course the great Brian Boland.
You got Boland right here, the Robin miniseries from 1990 by Chuck Dixon and Tom Lyle. Again, this is a great series. This is to me, this is where Dixon really steps into his own. He had done some stuff, for Marvel and stuff. He'd done even a little bit of DC stuff before this, but this is where he really makes his mark, as far as I'm concerned, because he is, to me, the quintessential Tim Drake Robin writer. He may not have created the character, but he, more than any other writer, has defined Tim Drake. And this miniseries is where it all begins. Robin goes on he's feeling insecure about being Batman's partner. Like, I may be a smart kid, but I'm not good enough to be out there on the streets with you taking on the criminal element. So he goes on a little excursion to try to get some experience. And in the process, he falls into a conspiracy by this guy known as the King Snake, who's going to unleash a bioweapon in Hong Kong, because this is the time when Hong Kong is going to be changing hands from the British back to the Chinese in a few years. And so this guy, in a fit of like vengeance. It's like, I'm going to destroy the city and make it useless to the communists by killing everybody with a plague virus. And Robin and this former DEA agent and Lady Shiva all come together and take on the King Snake. And again, it's a great series. You see Tim Drake really grow as a character. Because when you first start reading the series, he's not really Robin. He's Tim Drake in a costume. But by the end of the series, you're feeling, yeah, this guy is Robin. And I really liked how Dixon, over the course of the issues, really brought that to bear. You can see the sort of change in Tim himself over time.
They used this as a springboard to go into the Robin regular series that Chuck Dixon wrote, and wasn't Mike Warwingo on that for a while? Am I dreaming that?
Yes, he was on the regular series, but there was this series and then 2 other miniseries, and then it went to a regular series.
Okay. Yeah, I bought this just because of the Brian Boland covers that came out, and I was like, I'm not a huge Robin fan, but I was like, sticking true to form that all my purchases, or most of my purchases, even as a kid, were art driven. So I was like, oh, these covers are too good. And so I remember buying this series just because of the Boland covers. So let's take a look at an interior page from this issue. Ooh, saucy. All right. Boom, there it is. All right, what's happening here?
Okay, this like I said, in the start of the series, he's not really Robin yet. He's just Tim Drake in a costume. And in this scene, he is the big reveal where in the first couple of issues, he's trying to save this girl who's being harassed and drug around by this group of criminals known as the Ghost Dragons, or like a street crime gang. He thinks she's in danger, not realizing she's one of them. And this is the reveal where he learns that she is actually one of them. And you can see, she even tells him right here, she goes, "Ah, little bird, you should see your face. It is priceless. Such a look of surprise. I am no longer the damsel in distress, and you are no longer the valiant rescuer. Poor broken heart, poor love-struck fool." And she slaps him right in the face. It's like right there, it's like that's the kind of mistake that a rookie makes. It's someone who isn't experienced enough would make. And this is what they show in here. This is what makes the series so good, is that you see Tim Drake making mistakes like this that anyone his age should be making. He didn't say, well, he's just like a super kid, and if they did that today, he'd be like so perfect and nothing wrong. He can't do anything wrong. He's got all the answers. He knows exactly what he's doing at all times, and no one can ever outdo this guy. And that's how they would do it today, like a Mary Sue character. He is very much not that, and that's what makes this so good, is you see that growth over the course of the miniseries.
Ellie Munoz says, okay, show's over. Wrap it up. Secret Wars is the winner. Kevin Thomas says, my favorite miniseries is Where in the World is Shelley Lopresti? Well, hopefully we'll see her tomorrow during the Aaron Live show. So anyway, so yeah, Tom Lyle did network on this. Is a nice work. I'm sorry, go ahead.
This is Tom Lyle and Bob Smith. But yeah, Jiminy Cricket, the reason the reason it is good is because he doesn't, because he actually, you can see here, this disproves all that nonsense that they're saying now about the character right here.
Yeah. Hey, now this bat flies in here. Does Batman show up on the next page, or is that a spoiler?
No, that's just a little cue to like say he's, and so a bat shows up, and of course because he's. And so that's what saves him from danger. His bat just shows up, and it distracts them just long enough for him to escape,
and kind of cements his how should we say, not his legacy, but cements his place as part of the Bat family. There seems to be a little controversy here. You mean Shelley Lopez? Okay, so Kevin Thomas said, my favorite miniseries is Where in the World is Shelley Lopresti? Now, I'd like to point out that he did spell Shelley correctly. It is E-Y. But then Rapal man Jack comes in and says, you mean Shelley Lopez, and misspelled Shelley, although he had spelled Lopez correctly. So I guess that's like 50%, but that's still a failing grade, 50%. You got to do better than that. Anyone ever read Willingham and Sam Keith's Epicurus the Sage? Well, you guys can get us going on a different track pretty quickly. I I remember when it came out, and I kind of liked the artwork to it, but I never picked it up for some reason. I've got more excuses of why I didn't pick stuff up that it seems really odd now. I was like, why didn't I buy that? Here we go. Cloak and Dagger. I remember this. This was Rick Leonardi, right?
Yes, it is. Rick Leonardi and Terry Austin, written by one of my personal favorite writers, the great Bill Mantlo. And again, I love this book because it shows so much dichotomy. You got, he's a man, she's a woman. He's black, she's white. He's got shadow power, she's got light power. He's sort of like the harder-nosed guy, she's the soft-hearted one. They're like total contrasts to each other. And the whole basis of the series is them trying to figure out how to come to terms between justice and vengeance. Is basically the whole premise behind the entire miniseries, because they're out there trying to protect kids and runaways and low-level people from criminals, but they do it in a very harsh way to get, sort of like to make them pay, because they were victims of that kind of thing themselves. And so like this is, they're paying it back to those who have done it to them and protecting those who were once like them. And it's just a really great miniseries. Again, just a great character spotlight for these two. And Leonardi and Austin, I mean, what more can you say after that? That's just a tag team, that you can't top.
It's amazing how many of these miniseries that Marvel put out this time spun off into regular ongoing series.
Well, this actually spun out because of their appearances in Spider-Man, where they first appeared. Right. That's where they first appeared.
And then it was Peter Parker.
Right? Yeah, in Peter Parker Spectacular Spider-Man, yes. And then they spun off into a miniseries here in 1983, their own miniseries.
1983? That was that long ago?
Yes. 30 years.
They were 60 cents in 83? Wow. Man, it's the rapid incline to the price of comics is pretty amazing if you look at it. It was like they were all the dust I'd kicked up in the studio, excuse me. They were 10 cents forever, then they seemed like they were 12 cents for a good amount of time. And then it just went boom, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45. Pretty soon they were $1. But 60 cents always felt kind of odd to me. They should have just gone right from 50 cents to 75 cents. 60 cents was always kind of odd to me. I don't know why.
Well, I remember for a very short period, I think it was like for like 8 months or something, Marvel went from 60 to 65 cents. And then he quickly went to 75 cents after that.
I was like, was it really a 65? I don't remember that, but
there was a brief short period of 65 cents.
Bearwolf 13 says 83 was the year I was born. Yeah, okay, don't rub it in. Okay. That was my first year of college was 83.
Our Burger, he gets it right here. Peter Parker 64, first appearance of Cloak and Dagger. That is correct.
I'm sorry, what number did he put out? What issue was it again? I used to have
Art Bergerman, Peter Parker, Spectacular Spider-Man 64, first Cloak and Dagger. Okay. That is correct. That is their first appearance.
The only issue I have of Cloak and Dagger was the, when Marvel did that month where they did all the headshots of all the characters.
That was like, from the short-lived regular series, and it came out as a result of this miniseries being so popular. This was a very popular miniseries of the day. And then it spun into a regular bi-monthly series for them after that. And that was
I got
9.
9 had the Art Adams cover.
The art.
Yeah, that's why I picked that up. Henry's saying 25-cent days were around for quite a while. Well, they came around in 73. I think they last for about 5 years. You might be right, which is long. Considering
25 cents started in 74. Remember
74?
Marvel's books. Remember, the month I was born, January 74, was the last 20-cent month at Marvel. After that, they went up. So 74 is where it becomes 25 cents.
Then they went to 77 or 78 before they went to 30. And they only stayed 30 for like a second, and they were 35.
Yeah.
But I don't remember the exact year. But yeah, got a couple years out of that. Because that was my prime buying time. I came into the tail end of the 20 centers, but 25 cents is what I remember spending, getting 4 for $1. That was like my main collecting years, that 3 years in there, 3 or 4 years, however long it was. Oh, let's take a look at this. This is an interior page from this comic. Boom, there it is. So this is Leonardi inked by Austin.
Terry Austin. And this is from the first issue. They were following a couple of runaways who were being heralded in by a group of ne'er-do-wells who probably had no good intentions for them. And so then they explode on the scene right at the same time as Bridget O'Reilly, the cop, is there. And they explode on the scene and take out the crew. But in the process, the crew is, they're armed. And so they start shooting at them. And they hit one of the kids that they were trying to save. And the kid gets shot and dies. And you can see again, just the stark reaction between the two of them. You got Dagger, who's like just horrified. It could have been one of us. And we will hear no more of this. We did what needed doing, and that's just, there it is, the dichotomy of the two of them. She does this because she feels she's trying to help people. Him, it's more about vengeance. And you can see how hard-hearted he is to her soft heart when she feels that she may be responsible, even indirectly, for some innocent person's death. It horrifies her. Whereas Cloak's just like, yeah, it's just how it is. I don't want to hear about it.
Well, I love that last image too in that panel. Reminds me of A Christmas Carol, when which one of the ghost of was it the future or the past that had the two creepy little kids in his cloak. It's kind of an interesting moment right there because he would do that. He'd cover her, right, and then they would transport away or whatever, right? Wasn't that kind of his deal?
He'd shrink down and then poof, they'd teleport somewhere, yes. But you can see here, like, you got Bridget O'Reilly telling, I could have saved both those kids if you hadn't interfered, So like, is what they're doing actually helping people, or is it causing more problems than not? Who set you up as judge, jury, and executioner? All those kind of things are in play in this, as they're trying to decide, what are they in for? Are they in for justice, or are they in for vengeance?
Yeah. Typical comic book cop reaction, though, is blame the superheroes for... I could have saved those kids if you'd gotten out of my way. Really? Come on. I'm not going to put up with that. We all need superheroes. All righty. So, no, I did pull a second page out for this one. I didn't get them for all of yours, but I did get them for like the last three here. So there was another page from that. This is just prior, probably, right? I got these out of order. This is the next
issue.
Oh, okay.
No, this is the next issue. This is separate. Now, in this one, they've tracked down this guy who's a killer of women. And, again, this is where it really comes into, what are you guys really about? Are you about justice, or are you about vengeance? Because you got it right here. She goes, justice? What kind of justice? And then Dagger's like, the same justice he gave his victims, an eye for an eye, a death for a death. And he's like, no one appointed you to judge or jury. No one gave you the power to be the final arbiters of any man's fate. And he goes, we were given power to do good, to prevent evil. The law decides what's good and evil. He goes, there's only one law, detective, and this murderer of women and children shall soon discover the law of retribution. And you kind of see, where are you going with this? You see Dagger talking about, like, we're trying to help people, and then you got Cloak saying it's about retribution. And so which way are you going to go?
That's a great face down at the bottom, that close-up of Cloak.
That expression is perfect.
Rick. Yeah. No, the one thing that I obviously read comics growing up, but I wasn't a Marvel zombie to the fact that I had to have every single book or anything. I just kind of bought the stuff that interested me. And it might've been because my limited budget of only 4 comics with my $1. But you make me think, I should go back and read this. Because I bought a lot of stuff in the 80s that I had good intentions of reading and never got around to reading, and they just sort of stacked up and they're sitting over there. So maybe I should go back in and revisit some of this stuff, because it looks like these are the way you describe them, James, unless you're selling me a bill of goods. Some of this stuff sounds pretty good.
It is. It's a very great miniseries. Again, Bill Mantlo, one of my all-time favorite writers. I mean, and this is his magnum opus. This is his crowning achievement with the creation of Cloak and Dagger.
Yeah, he did really, really good work. In fact, I was reading a trade paperback of Skull the Slayer, which I remember reading as a kid and loving because it was dinosaurs, but it's horrible. It's so bad. And then the one good issue was a guest issue by Bill Mantlo came in and wrote like issue 6 or something. And it was actually pretty good. And it was like, wow, someone, and it was like guys like Marv Wolfman, I think, but he was editor in chief, I think, at the same time. So he was writing this book while trying to be editor in chief. So he probably wasn't putting a lot into it. But yeah, I remember Bill Mantlo coming in and writing that one issue. And I was reading it and going, okay, I've just read 7 bad issues, but this one's actually pretty good. All right, here we are to the next one, Firestar.
All right, this one's a very personal.
Is this the character?
This is a very personal one for me.
Was this that cartoon show with Spider-Man?
Yes, like Firestar from Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. Yes, that's where she was first appeared in 1981. This miniseries came out in 1986 by Tom DeFalco and Mary Wilshire, and it's where the Robin miniseries was coming to experience. He was trying to come to experience because he wanted to be Batman's partner. This is more coming of age. This is where she first gets her powers and she first learns about what a mutant is and all this other stuff that she deals with. And, it's very personal to me because, when I was 7 years old, I had a crush on Firestar because, I loved the cartoon so much. So when I saw that there was a miniseries, I was like, oh, I got to get this. And of course, it doesn't quite match up exactly with the origin of the cartoon series, but it's still a great read all on its own. Tom DeFalco is a master of like that whole human interest type thing, the way he did the work, weaves in like action and like, just the human drama of it all. And in this series, what happens is her grandmother dies, and it's what triggers her powers to come to the fore. And so she ends up being recruited by the White Queen, who has her academy versus Xavier's academy. And she's grooming her to become an assassin for her. And meanwhile, Firestar is dealing with all the emotions, like all the emotions of like loss of her grandmother, moving from her father, being isolated from the other students, all these things that like just all kinds of stuff, like the typical teen angst type of stuff of the day. And you really watch her again, just like with Robin, how he grows to his experience. She grows in maturity. She starts out as like this shy, reserved, very, very demure kind of person. And by the end, she's a lot more confident in herself. She's a lot more authoritative in herself. She's like the Firestar I remember in the cartoon series. And so I really like this series. It's a great character study of this character that actually is one of the few Marvel characters didn't spin where a cartoon was spun from their comic. It was the reverse way, where the character was from a cartoon and got spun into a comic.
So she was never in the cartoon show. Was she ever identified as a mutant, or do they just make her that in the? Oh, she was.
Yes,
okay.
She was a mutant in the series. Yes, she was. Her and Iceman were the mutants in the series. Yes.
Okay. Kevin Thomas says, I love Firestar. I hated when they broke her and Justice Marvel Boy up. Let me try that again. Marvel Boy up. Right up there with breaking up Peter and MJ. Oh, so her and Marvel Boy were an item?
Yes, and in the New Warriors, they got together and they were supposedly going to get married and all this stuff. And yes.
People are saying they had the miniseries. They still have it. They remember this. I don't remember this.
Yeah, Jiminy Cricket right there. There it is. Yes, Jiminy Cricket.
What, they killed her horse?
While she was at the White Queen's Academy, they have a stables, and there was this one horse she rode, and they set her up because the whole entire time she's at the school, the White Queen is grooming her by making her believe certain things that aren't true. And so she sets it up where there's a fire in the stables, and she runs in and she thinks she's responsible. Her microwaves are responsible. She believes that I can't control myself. And it's not her. It's all been set up by the White Queen. And she goes and pulls out the horse to save it. And the White Queen uses her methods to give the horse a heart attack. And she can say, you killed the horse with your microwaves. It was your microwave energy out of control that killed the horse you love. And so it's like, yeah, they killed a horse in here, and she blamed herself for it. This is how she was manipulating her the whole time.
Now, if she was using microwaves, could she cook food really fast? Was that like one of the things she ever did?
Yeah, she could. I remember years later there was an episode of issue of New Warriors. I think it was number 3, where she's at home with her dad and she puts coffee in a mug and then puts her hand on the mug and warms it up with her hand and then go, here you go, Dad. Here's a nice cup of coffee for you.
Well, look at that. So my joke was actually reality and I didn't even know it. Wow.
Yes.
Okay. So
again, just a classic coming of age tale. A classic coming of age tale. I love it. Like I said, and I've always loved Firestar since, I first saw her on the cartoon. So I had to have that miniseries in my collection.
Now, why did you pick this page, I wonder?
Well, this page got picked because this is basically the whole premise of everything.
She just happens to have White Queen in it.
Everything went according to plan. Yeah, the White Queen. She's talking to the Black King of the Hellfire Club, and she goes, everything went according to plan. Our people in the airport managed to start the appropriate riot as soon as the rigged radio exploded. Angelica performed as expected. She goes and then blah blah blah. And she goes, and then the whole point of it is they're setting her up to become an assassin because the Black King and the White Queen want to kill Selene, the Black Queen of the Hellfire Club, and they're going to use Firestar as their weapon to do it. So this is like the whole plot of the entire story is this. It's like the White Queen grooming her and manipulating her to become an assassin to kill the Black Queen.
Now, wait a minute. Okay, again, I was never a big X-Men guy, but you got the Black Queen, you got the White Queen, you got the Goblin Queen. Now, who's the Black Queen?
The Goblin
Queen was Madeline Pryor, right? Or not?
Yeah, she was the Goblin Queen. That has nothing to do with this, though. This is the Hellfire Club, which had the Black and White King and Black and White Queen.
Okay. So the Black Queen wasn't anybody other than like just the Black Queen, right?
Well, the original Black Queen was Jean Grey. She was manipulated by a character known as Mastermind, and she became the Black Queen, and then she broke free of that with the Phoenix power and became Dark Phoenix. That's where all that went down. So she was the original Black Queen, but then Selene is the one that takes over after Jean Grey is, no longer the Black Queen. The new Black Queen is Selene, and now you got the Black King, Sebastian Shaw, and Emma Frost, the White Queen, conspiring to get the new Black Queen murdered.
Poor Jean Grey. How many identities did she have, man? They would always was that their way of telling us she was the most boring character they had, so they had to keep doing all these.
Jean Grey, Marvel Girl, Black Queen, Phoenix, Dark Phoenix. Yeah, she's had more than a few.
My goodness. Oh well. And she keeps bouncing back though. So you got
no Sheldon Martin. There was no drag queen. That this was before that was a thing. That was before it was a thing.
That was part of the
whole. Today there would be, but not then. Not back in 1986. This is what I was talking about. Is how you can see she comes into her power. She comes into her own. She's much more authoritative. She's got the Black Queen after it's all been exposed, and she's learned the whole manipulation she's been under for all this time. She goes to get her revenge, and she goes, what's the matter, Frost? Afraid? You wanted me to learn how to kill. Well, you just got your wish. And then she does the microwave in her face. She's like, my face. You think, oh God, she's burned her. Like, but no, she's okay. He goes, my face, my beautiful face. He goes, I merely heat up the molecules enough to give you a feel for what my microwaves could do. He goes, why are you doing this, child? Why? Because you hurt me and betrayed me, and I'm tired of all the lies. I just want to be left alone. Done. Go now, and I promise you that you will never need fear me again. Not so fast, lady. I'm going to seal this bargain in my own way. I don't want you to ever forget that I deliberately chose not to kill you. So I'm going to leave you with a little something to remember me by. And she goes kind of like Nova and destroys this underground bunker that they were in under the school. And and that was her revenge. I've destroyed your place where you do this stuff. See, but you can see she's much more authoritative now. She's not demure. She's not very scared of herself and all worried about her powers and the way she was the rest of the series. She's come into her own.
Have they used her all that frequently since this miniseries? I mean, I don't remember.
She didn't get much play until the New Warriors.
Okay. Did they ever change her mask?
1990.
Did they ever change her mask?
She's had a couple other costumes since this one, yes.
Okay.
But I like this one. It's the one from the TV series. It's very simple. It's very just classic.
Well, Yeah, I mean, I can see the nostalgia in it, but I never watched that cartoon. So, Parker Luck, what's that, Matt Bird? I know that from the Amazing Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, the cell design was from John Romita Sr. So when this Firestar miniseries came about after the cartoon series, did Romita Sr. do layouts? I don't know. Do you know, James?
I don't believe he did any work on this miniseries. No. I
And I
did
don't
know
know.
he was involved in the cartoon series. I did know that, but I did not know that. I don't know about him being involved in this miniseries in any way.
Hmm.
Oh, Marcus
No.
Killy, we got some more here. Marcus Killy, we got some more info here for us. Yes, she was in the Busiek Perez Avengers run, but she was in the New Warriors first. That's
Yeah.
what. In fact, yeah, she was in the Busiek and Perez run of Avengers. She was a member of the Avengers for a little while. Yes.
When I
Her and
was
Marvel Boy.
when I was breaking into the industry is when the New Warriors came out, and I actually did one New Warriors short story or something in one of the annuals. But that's when I quit reading comics because I was working all the time, or at least trying to work. So I shouldn't say I quit reading, but my reading became very, very scattered and limited. So a lot of this stuff I just flat out missed. So me not knowing she was in the
Avengers.
no, we just said the New Warriors. That was just me not paying attention, which has been going on for about 30 years. All right, so here's your final pick. These great Michael Golden covers, The Cops, The Job.
Cops, The Job. Yes, this series. Again, I gotta be straight up with everybody. The art is done by Mike Harris, who I work with, and Jimmy Palmiotti. The stories are by Larry Hama and Joe Jusko. Joe being a former cop himself. And everything I learned about this series is that all the stories told in here are taken from real life stories that Joe heard from actual cops. The stuff that happens in here, the stuff that happens to these two cops here is like it's all from stories he had heard from actual police officers. And to me, I say this series is like Adam 12 meets Hill Street Blues with a dash of NYPD Blue thrown in for good measure. It's about the female here. The series starts with her on her first day, and her father was a cop, and so now she's a cop, and it shows you basically the life of a cop and what they deal with on the job and off the job. And it's just a great study of that. Joe Jusko has said that cops have come up to him and said they love this book because it is the most authentic adaptation of a cop's job ever put into comic book format. So
interesting. Now,
so with all the stuff people talk today about the cops and the cops are racist and they want to kill every person they see and all this other stuff, that's not true. Read Cops, The Job. That's much more like what a cop's day is like. You want to know what cops deal with? Read this miniseries. It's excellent. I didn't. It's from 1992. I didn't read it when it came out. I read it many years later, but it blew me away. And we're like, wow, this is awesome. I don't know why I missed this the first time around.
That's interesting because I remember seeing this come out and it just didn't do anything for me, even the golden covers, because I was like, it's like Night Nurse or something. It's like, what do I want to read a comic book about police for? I want to read superheroes. But this artwork is actually kind of cool. Who drew this again?
Mike Harris and Jimmy Palmiotti.
Harris. I don't know who that is, but it has a little bit of a Golden vibe, has a little bit of Kevin Nolan vibe to it. It's kind of funky. I like it.
Mike studied under Neil Adams as well.
Wow, look at that.
But yeah, see, like this right here is a perfect example. Someone was assaulted, and you got all the people around, and yet they're getting conflicting stories. And you got the one girl there in the black shirt and the red pants. She's like the neighborhood activist who's always hassling cops. She even goes right here. She goes, she knows who did it, and you're never going to catch him. How come police stormtroopers can beat up peaceful demonstrators at Tompkins Square and they can never catch a mugger? Is it just there? It is right there. I mean, how many people do we hear just like that today?
Mm-hmm.
But I love the response here that she gets. She goes, muggers succeed if they get away, and demonstrators succeed if they get beaten up. There it is, right there. And again, it's a mirror to our current times.
Yes. Leg Kick says, I like the Bald of the Brave miniseries. I remember that one. And the 2 Hercules miniseries by John Byrne. Those I don't remember. Hercules by John Byrne. Why don't I remember that?
Well, maybe he was the writer, because I do know that there were 2 Hercules miniseries done by Bob Layton.
Well, again, me not paying attention is pretty much a is pretty much a standard of operation for me. So me not knowing what someone's talking about, it shouldn't be a shock to anybody.
There should be one more that I had on there. I know I had 8.
Well, you've got another page here.
Yeah. See, again, this shows you. Again, this is the one of the penultimate moments is during dealing with all the stuff they deal with. In the background, there's a storyline of a slasher that's going around and killing people and cutting them up. And here, of course, is when they finally come across them. And her partner is the one that gets taken out here. And you can see there's 2 of them. There's 2 guys there. One's getting hit by the reporter chick, and then you got the other guy with the knife. It's 2 killers. So it's like this must be where Wes Craven got his idea for Scream for 2 killers, as he read Cops the Job.
Well, spoiler alert for those of you who haven't seen Scream.
Yes, if you haven't seen Scream from 1996, I'm sorry I just spoiled a 30-some-year-old movie for you. Sorry about that.
Like, next thing you're going to do is tell us the end of Psycho. I mean, come on, knock it off. What is it? Parker Luck, that's what Matt Bird says. I know that when she was in New Warriors, of course, we're talking about Firestar, New Warriors, she ran into Spidey during the 90s clone saga of Spider-Man lore. Recently, Firestar showed up with Iceman in the Spider-Man event Dark Web. So she's not dead.
Yeah, they've had her with Spider-Man a couple times like that, but like it was never like the TV show. They weren't like best buddies or anything. They just kind of maybe know each other in passing. It was never the same way as it was on the show. But I'm sure that they did those things as sort of a little wink and a nod to all of us who watched Spider-Man's Amazing Friends. Say, look, it's Spider-Man and Firestar together. You see, just like the cartoon series,
just like the cartoon. Yeah. All right. Let's see. Do you have one more here? Oh, you do. Now
yes, I do. Now, all the ones you've seen so far, folks, are from the 80s and 90s, and you're like, all right, James, they're all great series, but that was when comics were great. Is any newer that's any good? Well, yes, there is, folks. I have one for you right here. Ragnarok by Walt Simonson. There you go. How can you not have Walt in here? It just can't be done, son. I recently reread this one over the last few days, so I'm fresh on this one. This one is like the one I'm most freshest with. I love this. Basically, if you read his Thor run at Marvel, when you get to issue 380 with the battle with the Midgard Serpent, instead of Thor winning the way he does, imagine he loses. And then this is the continuation from that. This is the gods actually lose Ragnarok.
I haven't read this yet. Is it still ongoing, or did he wrap it up? And is it all in one trade at this point, or a couple of trades?
It could be a couple of trades, because this was 12 issues, and then he did a second miniseries which continued on, and that was 6 issues long. And I don't know if he's going to do any more after this or not. It's questionable. He could continue it if he wanted to. I don't know if he will or not, but this is an excellent series. This is what happens is the gods fall in Ragnarok. All their enemies take over. The world is destroyed, and it becomes known now as the Dusklands, because it's all darkness. There's no sun, there is no moon. It is all ruled by the dead and the enemies of the gods. Thor was the last god standing who was locked away in this place, and he is now old, as you can see, and decrepit himself. And and what happened is one of the enemies sends some black elves to kill Thor in this place where he is chained up, to kill him, and instead they set him free. And now he's going through the Dustlands trying to figure out what's happened and where is everything. Everything I known is gone, and it's like a very old, tired Thor. He's not like the young man we all love. Oh, there is a third series. Okay, I guess he's doing another one. So yes, but this was the first, and it's just, I love this. The way it's like heartrending watching Thor in some of the more character-driven moments, and yet of course, being Thor and Simonson, you got to have great big action, and there's plenty of great big action sequences in here. So it's, excellent story. It's love, it's honor, it's death, it's despair, it's remorse, it's everything. Wagnerian. It is a Wagnerian epic, and I just can't get enough of it. I wish he would keep doing this series forever. That's how good this is.
Well, I hope Walter's not watching, because I have not read it yet, and I was always like, it was one of those things that it kind of crept out, and I wasn't even aware of the fact that it was out, and then I found out it was, and then it was several issues into it, or into a miniseries, and I was like, well, I'll just wait till the trade comes out and then I'll pick it up, and I just have never done it. But when you brought this up, I was like, I had automatically had these feelings of guilt, because I was like, I really do want to read this, because Simonson's great. I mean, he's just great. And I just
I'll tell you, having read this, he hasn't lost his touch.
Well, I'd see. I'm you know what? I never get to comic shops anymore. I'm just going to have to order it on eBay or something, or Amazon, and get them. But thank you for bringing this up. It reminds me of a must read that I need to get. Because this has really fascinated me since I found out about it. And
this is from 2014, folks. Just in case you're wondering, the Ragnarok came out. The original, the first one, it came out in 2014. That's where this miniseries comes from.
9 years ago. Wow.
Yeah, almost a decade. And here's the scene. Now, this is after he's returned home. After he's been freed, he's finally returned home to Asgard, and here he is. He comes to his home, and I'm gonna read this all to you. Let's see. These burned ruins are all the remains of the Bolshkiner, the home of my happiness, and now the home of all my sorrows. Your golden hair still shines as brightly as when I first saw it. Have you waited here quietly through all the long years for my return? Sif, my sweetheart, resting at our doorstep, surrounded by the ashes of the enemies you slain when they came for you. Could I not have been here and fought beside you? The Norns have woven us a bitter skein indeed, my love. I mean, you feel the pain. Everything he knows is gone. Everything he's loved is gone, and there's just nothing but dust. And he's like, I feel I don't even belong here anymore. And you really feel for Thor in this. I really love how they made you so sympathetic to someone who's so powerful. You think someone who's as powerful as Thor, oh, you'll never feel sympathy for this guy. He can handle anything. And yet you do. You feel so bad for him. He's lost everything.
Simonson was always, I mean, if you take a poll of like, who's your favorite artist writer of all time? Obviously guys like Frank Miller would be up there, but Walter is just great. And I don't ever remember reading anything he's written and illustrated that I thought was, he always brings it, and visually his storytelling's always top notch. And
you should show the next page I have from this, because this is, again, it makes the point. Now this is the character stuff, the great character drama, the great emotional scene, something like that. Thor's homecoming. But then you have this. He still knows how to bring the action. Yeah. Thor stumbles across this area where it's an area that's controlled by the dead, but there's a sort of like a little mini temple dedicated to him, because what people do is they sneak in and hang little emblems of Thor's Mjolnir all over the place. So it's like they're trying to like pray to Thor and hope that things will get better. And if you're caught by the dead, they burn you alive. And so Thor comes across this place, and then he stops them from trying to burn somebody, and then they come and attack him. And you can see what happens here. You dare use my hammer's image to burn mortals? Bam! And just boom. This is a Thor that takes no prisoners. He's not the Thor of Marvel, where it's like, yeah, I'll try to beat you without hurting you too bad. You can see, just decapitating them and blowing them to pieces with the hammer. It's totally just going all balls to the wall with action with this.
Well, the thing about Simonson is he has these great Kirby dynamics, but he's married them with this sophisticated way of storytelling, and this looks like just another fine example of that. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get this. This looks good.
You know, if anyone's looking for anything to recommend, if he was like, well, I want to recommend people comics, but I don't have to go back 30 or 40 years to find something. You want to recommend them something good of modern times? Ragnarok. Yep. Ragnarok is great stuff.
I would agree, but now, James, it's my turn.
Well, here, Ellie Minogue says it right here. Simonson is GOAT.
There you go. It's If you want to talk about one of the great comic book artists of all time, he's certainly right up there. Certainly, especially if your emphasis is on storytelling. He's just incredible and innovative, and everything he does is so interesting to look at. But here's my series choice. I remember when this came out, this was originally supposed to be a 4-issue miniseries, and it turned into a 5-issue miniseries. Of course, it was Stephen Grant and the great Mike Zeck, one of maybe the best cover artist of the 1980s, and his interior stuff was great too. Although, other than a lengthy run on, or I should say a run on Shang-Chi, Master of Kung Fu, it always seemed like we were getting bits, not great, it was like miniseries here and there and a few issues here and there.
Well, he also had a run on Captain America as well.
True. I take that back. You're right. He had a long, lengthy run on Cap. And that's probably what was keeping him busy. But I just remember him being one of the great cover artists. And I remember this series came out, and I wasn't necessarily a huge Punisher fan at the time, but just that great image to, first issue where the Punisher is just blasting away, and has that screaming face. And when I opened it up and saw that Zeck did the interiors, and of course Stephen Grant wrote it, and I was like, I'm on board for this. But I remember it being one of those things that sort of got my interest again, hyped up. We talked about the John Byrne miniseries, whereas, this was probably, let me think. When was this? 85, 86, maybe? You guys in the chat would know. Maybe even as late as 88, but because this miniseries? Because this spun off
this miniseries, I think, is like 85, 86, because the regular series with Mike Barron was 87, so this was before that.
That's right. Yeah, but this got me excited about the Punisher, whereas he was, to me, up to this point, was just kind of a Spider-Man villain. But this really, and it really was one of the first things that started this sort of anti-hero movement in comics, right? Was this series where suddenly the Punisher, was really sort of a bad guy with good intentions, maybe, or a good guy with bad intentions. I don't know how you'd view, but I mean, he was a villain in Spider-Man, and this is the first time I remember taking a villain and making him into the hero of his own book, and they didn't really compromise him either. He got compromised later on, but initially he was, he laid waste to the villainry in the Marvel universe, and so he was this, you felt for the guy because, his family, of course, was killed in the park that day, that fateful day. And, he's basically killing criminals, which kind of like Death Wish, with Charles Bronson. He's kind of an anti-hero, but really kind of doing what we all wish we could do, right? Just wipe out the scum and get back to just harmonious living. Yeah. But so this really kind of excited me and got me back into that sort of oh man, I need to go to my comic shop every month and stuff. So I have very fond memories of this. Again,
I'll tell you, Aaron, I was thinking of picking this one myself, but I figured you probably would. That's why I didn't choose it.
Hang on now. We've got, so John Beatty, who inked this, I'm assuming, right, John, that you inked this? I can't remember off the top of my head, but I'm guessing you did. It was never meant to be a 4-issue miniseries. Okay, so what was that, a misprint? And then he says it was always going to be 5 issues. Then why did they put 4 in there? What was the story behind that? Oh, he says it was a misprint. They put it in. They said it was going to be 4 issues. Like, oh, wait a minute. Oh my gosh.
Or were they just larking you like they did with the Transformers? Transformers at the very end, it said issue 80 in a 4-issue limited series. There it is. They're just punking you. Is that what it is?
I love it. This was Marvel back in the day. How about that? Okay. Well, thanks, John, for joining us. John, of course, one of the great inkers in comic history, did just a ton of work with Mike Zeck.
In fact, just a couple months ago, I picked up a piece by him, inking the great, one of my favorite artists, Jackson Geis, from Aliens Predator, the Deadliest of the Species, #1.
Oh, yeah.
Great page.
Oh, Coke Mike Zeck didn't finish this. Wait a minute. John Beatty art.
How come
Mike Zeck didn't finish? Didn't he finish it? He did a 5th issue, didn't he?
He did the cover to the 5th issue. The interiors were done by Mike Vosberg.
Okay. All right. See, my memory's fading. But yeah, that was a terrific miniseries. What's he saying no to, though?
Here, if people want more Mike Zeck, again, on my rack this month, got Deathstroke the Terminator with the great Mike Zeck cover.
There you go. All right. But thank you, John, for chiming in and setting us straight on that with your inside information, which you got to love that. So big names are always floating around in the chat. Sometimes you hear from them, sometimes you don't. But again, appreciate it, John, very much. Wait a minute. Here we go. Here's some more on this. John says, Potts pulled it thinking it would miss shipping, and it was never meant to be scheduled to start with. But you know how that goes. Okay. Well, yep. That's those are one of those things. I mean, I know that especially back in the day when deadlines and stuff coming out on time was very important to most of the editors. But you look back in retrospect and you go, oh, if they just could have waited a little longer, we would have had the Zeck issue, but oh well. Here's my second choice. This is not in any particular order. All right. So I'm not saying one's better than the other.
Neither were mine, except for I made sure to put Simonson at the very end because it was modern.
How do you not pick Watchmen, right? And now what I'm about to say may seem blasphemous to some out there, but I remember this coming out, and it didn't jump out at me as something I wanted to pick up, and maybe it's because it was a DC book, I don't know. But then I kept hearing how great it was, and I'm like, okay, all right, I'll go back and buy it, and I'll. So I read it, and I thought the characterization in these books were really, really great, right? And I really thought Rorschach was a great character, and all the stuff that was going on, the dynamics between the multiple characters involved, but I have to say, at the end when Ozzy, what was that guy's name?
Ozymandias?
Yeah, whatever. Using because the one who was actually killing all of them.
Yeah.
The whole idea that trying to bring the world together because of an alien invasion, it seemed, and I know this is stupid to say this for a comic book, but it seemed too far-fetched for me, because even though you were dealing with superheroes, the whole storyline was so grounded in reality, or seemed, it was the way the story was told and it played out. And then I was like, no one's going to be dumb enough to fall for this. Oh, we're being invaded by aliens, and let's all, we live harmoniously like a Coke commercial or something from the 70s. And that always, as the years have gone by, I've kind of accepted a little bit better, but I just remember my initial reading, I was like, this is the ending? Seriously? So,
you know what? I feel the same way. I read up until the very end of issue 11. I was like, wow, this is a really good story. And then right at the end of issue 11, when the reveal comes, then you read issue 12, it's just like, what? This is how it ends? This?
Yeah. I don't know what I was expecting, but it wasn't that, and it didn't really work for me. Yeah. But all the way up to that
Dave Gibbon artwork, though. Dave Gibbon was on point. I got to give him that.
Yeah. Well, dude, that scene where Rorschach faces off with Dr. Manhattan, and he's compelled to go out and tell the truth, and Dr. Manhattan's like, won't let him pass. And he's like, then go ahead and kill me, and rips his mask off. And he just pauses for a second and blasts him to atoms. Oh my gosh. That was such a gut wrenching scene, because Rorschach was my favorite character in the whole thing. And to watch that scene where he just gets eliminated, the tears running down his face, and very, very emotionally affecting. So despite the alien stuff that I didn't like, that scene like made the whole series for me. It just blew me away. So look at this. Dan, the pizza man Genovese, just now showing up late for dinner. Hail everyone. Sorry I'm late. I haven't missed anything except about 10 miniseries, but there's still a few more to go. So there's still some content left here. Yeah, I mean, it was a, again, like I said, I was kind of let down by the ending, that at least the explanation of why this stuff was happening. But there was so many great moments in that miniseries. I had to put it in here. To get me to read 12 issues of anything is a remarkable accomplishment. So,
well, and again, despite how it ended and us being disappointed in that, there's no denying its longevity, its popularity, and the indelible mark it has made on the industry as a whole, as far as like how comics were written after that. It's very, very influential even to this day. So, I mean, there's no denying that. I mean, anybody who would not put Watchmen in like a top 10 list of the greatest limited series of all time, they just don't know what they're talking about.
Yep, I would agree. Marcus Killergoose says Moore was upset that Rorschach was so popular. Peter Felterbush says Rorschach was meant to be the villain. Ozzy was supposed to be the hero. Hence why Moore hated the series, because people sided with Rorschach. Well, that's kind of a twisted view of humanity. And I'm not saying Moore doesn't have a twisted view of humanity. I don't know enough about him, but he seems to be a fairly odd bird. But I never saw Ozzy as the hero in this. I always saw Rorschach as the hero, because he was the one that, he stuck true to his convictions, even in the face of death, and it wasn't popular, but he was sort of that Clint Eastwood Punisher character, kind of a mix of those characters. And so I think that's funny that it pissed off everybody, or pissed himself off by.
I mean, what he does to the guy who hurt the dogs is
yeah, exactly.
That's straight out of Punisher 101 right there.
Well, there you go. Creative Faye is voicing basically what we're saying, is that Ozzy, did anyone look at him as being the hero? I mean, he murdered millions of people. He was like Thanos, you know what I mean? He had this kind of justification in his mind of why he was doing what he was doing, but he was still killing innocent people for, a greater good. And I'm just like, you don't do something really horrible and then say, yeah, but it's leading to something good. You find a good way to do something
I did the wrong thing for the right reasons.
Right. Exactly. It's just, I never bought into that sort of, now here we go. We've really stirred up the boiling pot of the chat on this one. It wasn't a twisted view of humanity. He made some bad writing decisions that led to many of the characters being so unsympathetic that the guy who just wants to kill the bad guys was good. Well, you might be right. I mean, like I said, I haven't read it in a while, but it did affect me, and that's, to say that about anything is fairly remarkable these days. So, moving on before the chat blows up in.
Well, here you go. Kevin Thomas, I think, pretty much nails in the end of why people sided with Rorschach over anybody else.
Moore wrote practically everyone is a terrible person. I think that's why Rorschach resonates, since he was at least had some morals. Yeah, that's right. And the piece didn't last, Creative Face says. Yeah, so it was all for nothing, really, right? Okay. This was, I have to admit, a bit weird and confusing at times.
It is trippy.
I don't know if convoluted might be the right word or not, but this was like the coming out party for Arthur Adams. And I remember this got hot real quick right when it came out. And it was one of the many books that I would always miss on, because I didn't really buy a ton of books, even when I was an adult, because even when during this was 86, right? So I was in I was in film school and I was absolutely broke. So it's like I couldn't go out and buy like everything I wanted to buy. But when I found out that it was like, oh, this is hot, prices are going up in this book, I was like, yo, I better get it before it gets too expensive and I can't afford it. And that's when I sort of saw Arthur Adams' work for the first time. And again, to me, it wasn't so much about whether this is a great miniseries to read or whatever. It was a great miniseries to look at. And
well, he also
remember,
had Wireless Portacio inking him too. So you got two of like the modern day hyper detail masters working together on a single issue. I mean, that's
true. That's true.
That's
I forgot about
crazy.
That. Portacio. And then of course you have Mojo, which is one of the most interestingly weird, bizarre characters you're ever going to see. And so, and then who was the girl with the 6 arms with the swords? What was her name?
Spiral.
Spiral, right. So she became sort of she actually became more of a X-Men character, major player than Longshot didn't she? After this miniseries, it seemed to me like I saw her show up a lot more than I ever saw Longshot.
For a short time, I think she was with the group Freedom Force, the former Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, when they were being controlled by the government for a while. She was on the team of Freedom Force. Yeah,
so I remember seeing her a lot after this, and I was like, if this miniseries, it was really a bizarre thing to me because I remember this miniseries, and then it was kind of like, well, why aren't they doing more with this character? And maybe they weren't. I just wasn't paying attention because I didn't really.
They threw him into the X-Men.
But he wasn't really. I remember him being in a few issues that Jim Lee drew and stuff, but I don't remember.
No, he was there during like right after the Mutant Massacre up until about right before Jim Lee steps on to the book. The first Jim Lee issue, 248, that was his exit issue.
Okay. So he was there, and I just wasn't. I just wasn't reading the X-Men very regularly.
Basically, he's with the X-Men during their time of Fall of the Mutants when they're down in Australia, and all that stuff. He's with them during that period.
Well, it's weird because Wolverine sort of like he was everywhere, right? And so you're familiar with Wolverine even if you didn't read X-Men. And I was kind of like, I never saw Longshot anyplace other than, like you said, he appeared in the X-Men, but he never got as big as I thought he might based on how well this miniseries did. I guess maybe that's what I'm trying to say. But
well, I think this is a case of who did the book mattered more than what the book was actually about and the character of the book.
That's probably a very good point. Did Claremont write this, or was this
Ann Nocenti?
It was Ann Nocenti, wasn't it? I couldn't remember.
And I gotta say, I was a bit let down in it because it's kind of a jumbled mess in a lot of ways. And I loved Nocenti's run on Daredevil with Romita Jr. That was like some sterling classic comic book storytelling. So to see her doing this, I was kind of like surprised. Like, really, Nocenti's doing that? What is she doing? I mean, was this like her first exposure of actually writing a story? Because I mean, it is kind of like haphazard and all over the place for most of the miniseries.
Well, it's so weird when you start dealing with other dimensions and other, life forms from other dimensions and different worlds and stuff. It can get convoluted and weird pretty quickly. And I think that might have been part of the issue here, is that we were just, because he was from another realm or something, right? And then he crossed over, and then Spiral was his assassin or something from that. She worked for Mojo, didn't she? I'm trying to remember. And so there was like, you got two worlds colliding kind of thing. And it was just trying to, get all that stuff developed and played out in a way that made sense in a 6-issue miniseries. Actually, this ended up being 8 issues, didn't it?
No, 6.
It was 6. Okay.
And Ellie Minogue might have a reason why Longshot never became bigger than he did.
Well, he says, what did he say here? I love Spiral too. She had
not that one. The next one he did after that.
Oh, yeah. Where are you? Oh, there.
Right after Blackjack. Yeah, there it is.
Once Gambit was introduced, they kicked Longshot to the side. They were banking Gambit with being as popular. Well, you know what? You might be right too, because they look at Gambit and saying, "Oh, this is a cooler character," and they made him the love interest of Rogue, which also helped, raise his profile.
Well, what is it? Longshot was a love interest for Dazzler, so I mean,
Well, okay, but Dazzler, I mean, come on. Come on, the rollers, the
No, this is the '80s Dazzler with the blue uniform and
I know,
shorter
but
hair.
we all know where she started from. Oh my gosh. Anyway, but for no other reason than the really cool art. Okay, now I'm gonna get something a little more modern here, and you guys may see this as a bit self-serving, but I don't care. I did work in the industry, so I am such a huge fan of those Hanna-Barbera cartoons. When they did Future Quest, which was a 12-issue maxi series, I loved that book. And here's the real tragic thing. I was supposed to do this book, or I had been lined up to do it before they'd gotten the rights and everything. And then I was working on something else. I think it was that Hawkman miniseries. And then that's when they launched this. And so I'm not saying Doc Shanner did a great job on it, especially he has that sort of retro-esque style that really fit what they were doing. And I wouldn't have done it that way at all. But I did get to do a cover, one of the variants, and with the Herculoids, which we see here. And then also I did, I think issue 3 or 4, I did a Herculoid story in there. So and then later I did in Future Quest Presents, I did a 3-part Herculoid story. But I was just thrilled to see this stuff in print with, Johnny Quest and then all the other Mitor, Frankenstein Jr., all these great characters that I remembered from, when I was real young. And so this ranks as one of my favorite just for that reason. It's not, I think Jeff Parker wrote it and did a great job on it. And I was thrilled. Like a lot of people.
Henry Jeremek is giving you a little bit of praise here, and Henry Jeremek is praising you.
Well, I hope so.
That is a great Herculoids cover. Nice.
There it is. Checks in the mail, Henry. Thank you so much. The great Joe Jusko at a con saw this, and he's like, I had a print of it. He was like, man, I gotta have that. And I said, I gave it to him, and I was supposed to take one of his, how he does the box art prints that he has of all the Marvel box art. And I never took one because he said he didn't have the one I wanted with him. And so I said, I'll get it from you next show. And I still never got it. So not his fault. I'm just saying I haven't been to a show that I saw him with that stuff that, to grab one from him, or I would say, yeah, I'll take one from you for the end of the show. Then I'd forget, and then he would leave and I wouldn't have it. So, Kevin Thomas, Aaron plugging his own work. Well, yeah, why not? Let's see. Courage.
Yeah, that would be Marcus. I think that'd be kind of tough to make the Herculoids gay. I think that would be a little bit hard, considering that it's a man and a woman and they got a kid. It'd be kind of tough.
Yeah, they didn't have a lot of human options to choose from on that planet. But anyway, yeah. So that I love that series, getting to see all those old Hanna-Barbera characters, Space Ghost, Birdman, and Steve Rude did a great, in the issue that I did with Herculoids, Steve Rude had a great Birdman story that was the lead feature. Then I was the second feature, and that was some really great stuff. Okay, here we go. Is this too obvious? But there it is. Kingdom Come. What do you say about this? I thought that I enjoyed Marvels when it came out. Although I found it a little, I was longing for more superhero action in it than we got, but it was interesting that what Kurt Busiek did, where he, had told from the reporter's point of view, right, of taking pictures of all these incredible events that he witnessed. And so we're sort of, eavesdropping on all these great moments, but we're not really involved in them. But it was still fantastic artwork, and it was a really interesting take. And I did love that series. But this is when the action, Alex Ross and the action got put together in a way that just blew my mind. I mean, this was tremendous art.
I always saw this as Ross trying to do Norman Rockwell as superhero stuff. That's how I've seen it.
But there was great superhero action in this. And there was a lot on the line, I mean, there was just like total destruction on the line, right? And that where Superman and Captain Marvel or Shazam face off. That was tremendous because you knew Superman had trouble obviously fighting against magic powers, which is what Shazam is. And Shazam is, you know, pretty powerful in and of himself without having that. And him like saying Shazam blasting Superman with lightning bolts was just an incredible
The chat
thing.
isn't totally with you, Aaron. Random McRanderson says, that it's great art, but the story's only okay. And another one says that Pellegruce says that that it was awesome artwork, but the story was boring. So people are kind of split with you on this. They agree with you about the art scenes, but they don't agree with you about the story.
I kind of like the story in this one, and maybe just in sort of comparison to, I know that Mark Waid isn't necessarily everybody's favorite person these days, but every time I worked with him, he always turned in a really good script. And so I liked his writing for the most part over the years. And I thought this was interesting. The use of and it may just be the artwork carried it for me, being a visual guy, and the use of the Spectre in this. And there's probably parts in there that I thought the use of this man who's a minister or pastor or whatever wasn't accurate or right what it should have been. But I did like what was on the line, and I did like scenes where you had Shazam facing off against Superman and the whole Batman thing with his big robot.
Well, Blackjack has an interesting take right here on that.
Blackjack here. Kingdom Come is a ripoff of Mark Grunwald's Squadron Supreme. Now, I have not read that. So
which is kind of funny is if you know the history, Squadron Supreme is Marvel / Grunwald's take on the Justice League.
Right.
So it's kind of funny. She's saying it's a ripoff of something that ripped off something else.
Well, see, now you sort of like piqued my interest to go back and look at that miniseries and see how similar they are, because that would be interesting, wouldn't it? Justin Side says, to me, Ross's art didn't feel very superhero-y to me. Well, it's because it's realistic. He's taking this approach that what if superheroes were real, as opposed to, what the rest of us mortals do when we draw comic books is there's a stylistic interpretation of these characters, making them bigger than life. Ross's whole take on his stuff is generally that these guys, this is what they would be if they were real. Like you'd see in the movies, for example, with an actor portraying it as opposed to an artist drawing it. So I can see your point, but it's hard to get past his skill level to not like it for me. Richard Gradwell says, I like Marvel's better. The story being told from the outsider's view of the Marvel universe. That made it interesting, but I like this better because I was more engaged in the action. But again, that's certainly subjective. Random McGranderson says, even outside of the realism, I love Alex Ross's layouts. Yep. He's pretty darn good.
Funny you brought this up because this is going to play into my con story.
Well, I got one more. Don't jump the gun, James.
Oh, no, I'm not jumping. I'm just saying it's funny you brought in Kingdom Come, because Kingdom Come, Alex Ross is going to play a part in my con story.
All right, here it comes. Talk about self-serving. Yeah, baby. Wonder Woman Conan.
done by your favorite artist.
Me. I got to tell you, the reason I put this in here is I had so much fun working on this. I was like, this is one of my favorite miniseries because I actually worked on it and really enjoyed working on it. Doing this whole barbarian storyline was tremendous. And here's the thing. When they came to me and asked me to do it, originally, I guess they'd offered it to Liam Sharp and he couldn't do it because he was doing something else. So then it came to me, right? So they had already hired Derek Robertson to do the covers, and Liam Sharp did an alternate cover for the first issue. So I get this and I'm like, all right, when do you need the cover? And they're like, tell me this news that I'm not doing the covers. And of course, I was really pissed. So like a little child, I called Dan DiDio up and said, Dan, you got to figure out some way for me to do these covers. This is ridiculous. And so he put it into place that I would do an alternate, that every issue would have an alternate cover, and that would be done by me. So I did all the alternate
issue 1,
covers.
which had Liam Sharp.
Well, Liam just did the alternate cover to the first one, and then he was done because he was working on another project. But Derek Robertson
did all the rest.
Yeah, Derek Robertson did all the covers, the main covers, and then I did the alternates, except for issue 5, oddly enough, where something happened and they used my cover as the regular cover. And I don't even know if Derek did the cover for issue 5. I think someone else did an alternate. So it was really bizarre. So I have the regular cover for issue 5, but the alternate for 2, 3, 4, and 6. But I enjoyed working on this so much. It's one of my all-time favorite projects that I put it on here because otherwise I would have put Avengers Forever, the Kurt Busiek,
Carlos
Pacheco miniseries would have been on here. And I noticed that none of us picked The Dark Knight Returns, which was, I mean, I appreciate it, but it was never one of my favorite reads. So, you know.
Again, I kind of put that in the category of like the Watchmen is like, you know, it's very influential. It was very popular in its day. It's had a lot of ripples since then. It changed comics in a way. But as far as like saying, I just want to sit down and enjoy myself and have a good time reading, yeah, I wouldn't put that in my list for that.
No. Justin says, Aaron, when you color hold a background like that, do you have to write notes to the colorist? Well, I colored this myself, so I didn't have to write any notes. But yeah, if you specifically want that,
but what if the guy who colored it would have screwed it up? See, if you didn't leave him notes, how's he going to know?
Yeah. The thing on this was my decision here was, you can see it's not exactly a color hold because there is some very pale green back here up at the top where the bushes are and stuff. And a little bit of color in the little people down here, but not much. I basically carried the green in the girl's outfit there into those bushes up there. I just wanted it to be, rather than a color hold, and we're probably talking about the same thing. I just felt I wanted it to be monochromatic because I wanted your focus on the bird and the 3 characters. And so that's why I did it that way. But I really like how it turned out. This is actually, I kept this original art. I sold all the original art to all the covers I did to this series, except this one I kept. Which, when we get to the original art, maybe I'll show it again. But anyway, so this is only here because I had such a fun time working on it that I figured anything that gives me that much joy has to be in my top 6 miniseries. But
Captain Canada also enjoyed it. He stated he loved it too. So
well, there you go. There's 2 of us. Anyway, I did actually pull some interior art just for the heck of it. This is Wonder Woman, and it's a little bit pixelated because it's smaller than I thought it was. But this book was a pain in the butt because of all those crowd scenes in the arena I had to draw. Because the first half the first issue is basically Wonder Woman in the arena at different times. I'm just like, oh. But I did it.
Well,
and I gave those characters personality.
I only keep hearing one thing when I look at this. Are you not entertained?
Exactly.
Are you not entertained?
Exactly. But I actually took the time to make those individual characters up there, and that's a lot of little people to draw. But I was so into this series and wanted it to turn out, really, really well that I put that extra effort in. And I think I kept this double-page spread, even though it's not a great shot of Wonder Woman's face. Just the body language and everything and the work I put into the crowd behind there made me say, you know what? I'm keeping it.
I think Randa McRanderson's trying to get a little nitpicky on you here, Aaron.
Well, not the way I draw them, pal. You must be seeing things.
His vision is the thing that's crooked.
Well, it might be let me see this. I see what you're saying, but that might be the no, that's her rib. That's the indication. It's kind of blurry. That's the indication of her rib below her boob. So her boobs are not lopsided. So it was just the non-clarity of the picture. But I thank you for attempting to shame me publicly on my own live stream.
No, he's backing off now. He's admitting it could be the pixelation.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Random. Yeah, we're talking about the same thing. You can color hold, sure. But I didn't like color it and then just do a color hold on it. I colored it as a monochromatic background. So in other words, I probably put way too much work into it that I didn't need to, when I could have just colored it and then just, use the old slider to drop the color where I wanted it. If you like crooked boobs, I'm not going to kink shame you. Oh, brother, here we go. See what happens. It's just like, I'm just an innocent bystander.
Well, Blackjack too. He's getting on this.
Her pixels were crooked. Jeez.
So maybe it's the computer that likes crooked boobs.
Yeah, exactly. I'm completely innocent in all this. I'm being victimized here. But all right, so let's talk about some original artwork.
Again, like I said, guys, we were making this show huge. Even though it's a short month, we're going to make it a huge show. I got 2 pieces for you guys.
I'm going to go with does it matter which one I go with first?
Go with whichever one you get first. Whichever one you get to first.
Here it is. Boom. There you go.
All right, this is from Cops the Job. You saw it in my selections. This page was gifted to me by the great Mike Harris. I just love this scene. Again, it plays out so much to things that we see in the real world. And when you think about how people think of the police and they talk about them today, yet this is much more the reality of what goes down. And you just got this great scene. This is after her partner's been killed, and now the killer's coming towards her, and some other cops have to take him out because, as you can see, he's not going to stop. So again, this is more the reality that the cops face over what you hear in the media and you hear from activists and all this other stuff. This is much more the reality. I love this. I love that first close-up shot right there. I mean, the look of expressed horror in her face. I love all the little details on the lips and on the cheeks that Mike Harris puts in there. Evidently, again, you can see he learned under the school of Neil Adams with that. And it's just a well done, solid, just cop drama page. So again, if you haven't checked out the series, go out. It shouldn't be very expensive. You should be able to find it very cheaply. The book was not very successful when it came out, so it shouldn't be expensive to get a hold of it. And just read Cops the Job. It's like I said, one of the best Marvel books no one's ever read. And here it is in color. You can see right here.
In living color.
Well, dying color in the final panel.
Right in the back of the head, man. You're like totally captain. That's awesome. Boy, I'm thumbing through my portfolio here, and it's like half the covers I kept from my personal collection are all from miniseries. So I could actually literally use any of them. And
before we do that, let's get to my other piece.
Oh, we will. I'm not going to flip through my entire portfolio. I'm just pulling out a couple here to match your output of 2 pieces. And I've got to put 2 pieces out too then. All right. So now this, come on, baby. There we go.
And this is from Robin, the Robin miniseries, the first one from issue number 2, the one you saw the cover for. This is the scene. This is the issue that introduces us to King Snake. And this is, I think, like the 3rd page he's on in the entire book. And you can see here, basically, you just get the gist of what he's about. He gets some bad news from his minions, and you can see how well he responds to getting bad news. You can see where Bane's father. You can see where Bane gets it from his father right here. It's right there. And also here is the second appearance of Lynx, the woman we saw on that page that you shown of mine. So that's her second appearance and his first. So I almost thought about using this during our Halloween month when we did our favorite villains and stuff, favorite comic villains, because again, this is just so villainy. He's just so nonchalant. And I love how Dixon and Lyle did this scene. He grabs the guy, and you see the grab, but then you don't see him kill him. You just see the sound effect from off panel, and then he's tossing the body away like it's just garbage. And I just love that. It's just so cavalier, so nonchalant about just like killing somebody.
So you're like a lot of vigilante stuff, and
I think in a previous life I was a vigilante.
Okay. There
And
goes.
here
Here's
it
the
is in color.
What's that sound effect when he snaps his neck? Does that say just snap? Is that like a K at the end of that?
Yeah,
With a T?
like a KKKT type.
Yes, snap. I'm gonna have to steal that. That's a pretty good sound effect right there. Sound effects are hard to come up with. I keep using like obvious ones like punch and bang when I shoot a gun,
Kick.
you know. Kick, right. Schlock, you know, stuff like that.
One of my favorite sound effects I always like, again, I saw this in the Nascenti Daredevil run, was whenever like someone would get hit in the bread basket in Daredevil, it was always Vok, V-O-K, Vok, just like right there in the bread basket.
Random McRanderson's begging for it, so here it is. That's what you get. Try not to do that outside the Sunday show because I don't want to come off as the villain, but you know, you keep pushing, and eventually you're going to get it. Marcus Killigrew says James is scaring me. Yeah, it's all that.
Then I'm doing my job.
In a previous life, once the statute of limitations runs out.
Well, wait a minute, but there's no statute of limitations on murder. That's the whole point. It has to be a previous life.
They're coming for you, man. All right. Here's what I got. I'll show you the black and white of that Conan cover that I kept. Let me go big screen here for a moment, if you don't mind, James. So there it is.
Nice.
And I made the comment in another stream how much I hate drawing wings, so I never do it on convention sketches. But look at that big wing there. That should explain to you why I don't want to do them at conventions.
Which explains why you decided to draw Hawkman.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you know, people say, hey, you want to draw Hawkman? You're like, sure. Then you go, wait a minute. Oh, I got to draw wings all the time. But anyway, but on a cover, I'm more than happy to kind of go crazy with the line work on the wings.
Yeah, there's some nice texturing on those wings.
Yeah, so this kind of reminds me of that Barry Smith Conan cover where he's wrestling with a giant bat. I think it's Conan 9. I'm not 100% certain.
Yeah, but the question I have is the bird gay? Because look where his mouth is on Conan. Is it a gay bird? Is that what that is?
I think it's a non-discriminating hungry bird might be what we're looking for here, but
it's a bi bird. It goes both ways.
Actually, this crow is one of the witches, so just transformed into a bird. So she may be maybe looking for some action from Conan. I don't know.
Well, we all know Conan was about the action, so
that's right. But anyway, so there's that. Now this is kind of obscure. Some of you may or may not know that I wrote and drew a Metamorpho miniseries. Now this is the cover from issue number 2. And what happened was it was supposed to be a miniseries, and then they decided to put it in a this happened to me all the time. It happened with Garbage Man too. They ended up putting it into this anthology miniseries, which was what was that DC television show that was on the WB? It was
Legends of Tomorrow.
Yeah, Legends of Tomorrow. And so my editor calls me and goes, we can't use this because we're not doing it as a miniseries anymore. So it has to, the covers have to include all the characters, and you can't do every cover because we want to, mix it up a little bit. So I did the cover to the first issue, but this would have been the cover to the second issue, which begs the question, the first issue, the cover to the first issue was actually used on the trade paperback. But I had done the first cover, and as you know, you do covers ahead of schedule. And so this editorial decision was made before they could stop me from doing the second cover. So this never got published, but I really like it. Pencils and inks by me. It did not get colored. I don't think I got to the stage where I colored it. And it actually, they use this as a pinup inside the trade paperback. So now that I think about it, maybe I did color it for the, I have to go back and look for the trade paperback. But anyway, so there you go. That was a mini series, that a cover to a mini series that
never was,
never got used. So there you go. There's my contributions to art. And it makes it easy when all you have to do is show your own art and you're an artist. My art collection is not as extensive as James, so I do have some pieces
Mine is not that extensive, believe it. I mean, you may think it is, but it isn't. I've actually got my first couple of new pieces in for this year so far, so maybe we'll see some of that coming up. We don't know. We'll have to see.
Paul Brillart, our resident engineer, says your Metamorpho work was outstanding. Well, thank you, Paul. Appreciate that. Metamorpho that made money. I don't know if it did or not, Marcus. I doubt it. It took me forever. I was constantly bugging Dan DiDio to do a Metamorpho miniseries. He kept saying, we're not doing a Metamorpho miniseries because no one will buy it. And I said, yeah, I know that, but it'll still be cool. So I couldn't really argue for the point, but eventually it got to a point where they were like, they had to use it to, to make sure the copyright kept going. And so he's like, all right, do it. I said, okay, now we're talking. So I turned in the script and he goes, I don't like this at all. And I went, did I just get fired from my own miniseries project? But he didn't say like, oh, this sucks. He just said that I don't want to do this. Come up with something else. And I'm like, well, like, what do you want? And he goes, I don't know. You're the writer. And I went, Judas Priest. So
that's just the Aaron Lepresti charm at work. That's all that is.
Yeah, exactly. So my first idea was that he got he got turned into Metamorpho and he was just like really, he looked at himself as becoming this Frankenstein monster type thing. And he didn't want to be above ground. So he was actually working as an enforcer, but like a hero for hire, if I will. But he started realizing the people that were hiring him to do jobs were like kind of shady and it became organized crime. And he realized that's not what he wanted to be involved in. And so he sort of came out of the shadows. I mean, he was a little bit like Darkman, where he was like hiding out in this kind of hideout, that abandoned warehouse kind of thing. And so then he eventually comes out and realizes that he's the hero that he should be. And then he becomes that hero, or he becomes the hero that he should be. And he becomes, part of the DCU. He's like, no, I want something bigger. I want something bigger. I want something bigger. And I was like, all right.
Well, to assuage you, Aaron, Kevin Thomas here gives you some to help you uplift you to feel better about that book.
It's better than the Tachyon stuff that Lopez guy did. Judas Priest. I hate to do this twice in one. I didn't write Tachyon. Sorry, my dog's going nuts. Let me close the door if I may.
Chair stream.
It only muffles it. But yeah, you misspelled Tachyon too, Kevin. Paul Brillart says, I have one of the alternative cover roughs. Promise not to get it inked. Thank you, because you know how that upsets me. It does. Drives me nuts. If you buy a rough from me, don't get it inked. It's a rough. It's not a finished pencil. It's not supposed to be inked. Marcus Killigrew, of course, he's angling for a cannonball too. I'm surprised DiDio remembered who Aaron was. Oh my gosh. Oh, look at this. Okay, let's just get it out of the way. Okay. Wait a minute here. Okay. All right. Dan remembers me. We're quite good friends. So there. What if I get a rough from you and ink it myself? Then I would become unhinged. They're roughs. They're not finished drawings. They're not supposed to be inked because there's not enough there to ink so that it represents a good drawing by me. And so then I see these finished inked pieces with bad drawing underneath and it pisses me off because it was never intended to be a finished drawing. So don't ink it. Doggone it. Anyway, once you buy it from me, you can do whatever you want. But if you want to tick me off, then yeah, do that. Anyway, because then you've got all these drawings floating around the internet that were not finished drawings by me, inked by somebody else. And people go, why does this blow so much? And I go, because it's a rough. It's a sketch and someone inked it. Anyway, all right. You must have a con story. You must have a con story.
Of course, James. I do.
We'll just
and of course, since it's February, that means it's the month of love. So again, I will bring in my wife into this. I took her to her very first Comic-Con back in 1998. Now, I've done them for a few years. I've been to a few, so I was old hat at this. She had never been to one before, and it was in Portland, the one-day Second Genesis show, the one you remember there, Aaron. And I'll never forget when she walked in. I mean, her eyes became like Olympic pools when she saw all the stuff. Like, you know, she's thinking, you know, to me, like, it's like every comic in the state here, because there's just so much stuff. And like, no, I said, this is generally how they go. This isn't everything. It's not all the comics. It's just a good bit of them. But we went to this show because Marv Wolfman was there, and she loved his Teen Titans stuff, especially the Who is Donna Troy stuff and the wedding issue. And also the Astro City crew was there. Busick, Anderson, and Alex Ross. And, you know, before she met me, she hadn't really read much comics other than DC. She hadn't read much of anything else. I got her into a lot of other stuff, you know, meeting me, and she loved the Astro City book. So she was very excited to meet the guys who made that book. And she even wore her Alex Ross Kingdom Come t-shirt to the show. So she was in line to get autographs, and Alex Ross saw her. And then, you know, when he was going to go sign, he had his pen. He goes, "Hey, do you want me to sign on your chest?" And to this day, she's not sure if he was hitting on her or if it's just he wanted to sign it because it was his image on the shirt. She's not sure how he meant that.
Well, he didn't say, "Can I sign your shirt?" He said, "Do you want me to sign on your chest?" So,
well, because that's where the shirt's covering. So I mean, but I'm saying, but like, she's still not sure to this day which way he meant that. But it's hilarious. But the best part was after we're getting done and we're walking out, and you know, because you know, she's like in awe of all this. She's just like you know, like stars in the eyes. You know, like, you know, these guys are on pedestals. You know, they're Greek gods. You know. And I'm just sitting there talking to everybody like I'm talking to you now. And as we're leaving, she's she's looking at me weird. I'm like, "What is it?" She goes, "You, I just, you know, you talk to the creators like they're people." And I'm like, "Well, they are."
That's right.
But I understood what she meant. You know, she's seeing them as these godlike figures, and here I am talking to them like they're just a guy standing at a bus stop or something, you know. And she just was amazed. I was just so, you know, just in the fluid of it. Just, "Hey, how's it going? What's up?" You know, this, that, and the other, you know. But yeah, it was her first con experience, and it just, you know, I will never forget that as long as I live.
Well, I'll tell a con story and make it short and sweet. Since disrespect seems to have become the order of the day in the chat, let me show you the ultimate. So I'm sitting at San Diego. I sit next to, my booth is next to Adam Hughes, and he has a line, you know, going almost in front of me, but it goes, well, actually it did. It went in front of me, down this way and around the corner to where he was, right? This guy comes up to me and he starts just ranting and raving about how much he loves my work. "Oh, I'm such a big fan of your work. Oh, I can't believe I finally get to meet you," and blah, blah, blah. And at that point, I start to realize I'm not who he thinks I am, because no one talks to me like that. And when they're too gracious and they're too like, "Oh my gosh, your stuff is mind blowing," I'm like, "Yeah, I'm probably not who you think I am," you know. And I had banners behind me just like that said Aaron Lopresti, right? So, and it dawned on me, you know, I said, "You realize that I'm not Adam Hughes, right?" And he goes, even though there was a line going all the way down there to Adam and the tail. I mean, it's like, these guys are standing in line, but no one's in line for me because I'm Adam. Who's they're going to see? You know what I mean? And the signs behind me that said Aaron Lopresti thought might have been a giveaway. So I had to break it to the guy that I wasn't Adam Hughes. And you just see the color left his face, jaw dropped. And then he says, "Yeah, but I really like your stuff too." And I said, "Get out of here. Go get in line."
Like I said, the Aaron Lopresti charm, baby. Aaron Lopresti, breaking hearts of fanboys everywhere. Crushing their dreams.
Yeah, well, I knew that, you know, whenever you hear that line, "Oh, but I really like your stuff too," then it's like, yeah, okay, sure you do. Get moving. Just in case someone who actually does know who I am and wants to talk to me wants to come up to my table, I need you.
Well, if he really wanted to hit that home, he should have said, "Oh, I love you so too. I love Star Trash." He should have said something like that. Oh, okay, at least he's seen my work.
Oh yeah, because yeah, that was pretty good. And I kind of was looking behind me, going, I got a banner right there. The 2 banners that say Aaron Lopresti on them. I was like, But anyway. There you go. Unhinged has it.
At least they didn't ask you where how Shelley was. Where is Shelley? So at least
that's the question. That's what I'm going to get from now on. Probably is where's Shelley. Aaron is the Adam Hughes of our heart. So that's true. Anyway, well, what a tremendous show. What can you tell us about what our next?
Our next one will be on March 26th.
Now, have you decided on a subject matter yet?
Yes. The subject matter of this one will be our favorite animated movies.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Now, I just need one clarification from you and from the chat.
Yes.
Now, I said animated, which usually means drawn, but would anyone consider claymation to be animated? Because it is claymation. It's not live, but it isn't drawn. So would that qualify?
Yes, I would say that's animated. Absolutely, I would. So that's fair game.
Okay. That is the next one, folks. March 26th, mark it on your calendar. Aaron and I will be discussing our favorite animated movies.
That'll be a little bit harder to choose because I've got a few, but that sounds exciting. I'm looking forward to that. I want to make everybody aware that I have a campaign called Wraith of God Blood Hunters. You'll find the link in the description of this video. If you want to go over there, you can get shot glasses, you can get hats like this, you can get baseball caps, Empire Comics. You can actually back the comic as well. Multiple covers, all sorts of good fun stuff. If you haven't backed, please at least go over there and check it out and see if it's something that interests you. And right below that, you'll find links for James's social media accounts. James, you can give us your...
Yep, we got down there. We got the MeWe group where all the stuff I do with the artist, all the information, the work of theirs, everything I do with them. It's all right there, one-stop shop. We got the art gallery where the art is available to buy. Got some great stuff there. And of course, we have my YouTube channel, which if Aaron will share the screen here with me for a second.
All right. Give you what are you putting up there? It's got to come up here first. There it is. Okay, there we go. That's your YouTube channel.
And you can see this is my YouTube channel. I wanted to bring it down here. It's right here, this little section here. I have a playlist on here called Why Is It Great? This is something I've been doing with a guy named Pops. He has a channel here on YouTube called Pops on Pop Culture. Pops and I, we do a monthly thing. Once a month we get together and we talk comics. It's called Why Is It Great? Where we take a comic that we love and we expunge on why it's so great. And because we figure there's a lot of people out there roasting a lot of horrible comics, and they all deserve it, mind you. But we figured somebody got to point people to the good stuff. So that's what we do with it. We're pointing out some really sweet comics to you guys that you should check out if you haven't checked them out. Here's our first 2 that we've done. I did the Iron Man issue on the first episode, and I did a Batman issue on the second one. Our next one coming up will be in the middle of next month. So go over to my channel and check these out. And then make sure to sign up and subscribe to Pop's channel so you don't miss the future ones. This is what we're doing to try to help point people in the direction of some good stuff.
Excellent. Kevin Thomas says, hey, that's my birthday. So that means next show, I assume he's talking about it, will be his birthday. So we'll have to bake a cake, and we'll enjoy cake, Kevin, at your expense. Anyway, so there you go. Thank you guys in the chat for joining us. We couldn't do this show if you weren't here to enjoy it with us. It's always great fun to interact with you guys and to talk about stuff we love, which is comic books and comic art. So thank you, James, once again for putting the all the hard work into formulating the show. I just come in at the last minute and host it. So we appreciate that, and we appreciate you guys. Make sure you tune in tomorrow at 4 for Shelley and I on Aaron Live. We'll be talking with Phil Diaz. We'll be talking about his new project, but we'll also be looking for Bigfoot and a bunch of other things that are always of interest, at least to me. So,
but never looking for Bigfoot, but never finding him.
That's right. Maybe someday. Maybe someday.
And don't forget Wednesday, folks, the next Graybeard Studio. You don't want to miss out on that.
Creative Face says, Aaron, when the chat is really rowdy, use a nuke clip. I may have to just nuke everybody, right? Anyway, Yeah, we have Graybeards at 1:00 on Wednesdays, where David Williams, Kelsey Shannon, if he shows up, we do some really cool drawings. So make sure you check out that if you can. I know it's in the middle of the day or early afternoon for people on the East Coast, but or later afternoon, I guess it'd be 4:00. But it's the only time we can avoid getting run over by everybody else that's streaming in the evening. So tune in for that if you can. Lots of good content here on YouTube. It's like the next best thing to your cable television channel. In fact, it may be better than your cable channel. But anyway, guys, thank you. Have a great rest of the weekend. I guess this is only Saturday, so you still have Saturday night and Sunday. So enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we will see you guys next time. Thanks for joining.